Imagine you know everything about murder. You've studied it at top universities. You've surveyed real criminals about their secrets, and you are convinced you know how to outsmart the police. He planned every detail: the cameras, the phone, the escape route. 4 victims in one house, 15 minutes total, and 0 witnesses. Almost. This is the story of a man who tried to commit the ultimate perfect crime, and the single microscopic flaw that broke his grand plan. What did he miss? Let's find out. The small town of Moscow, Idaho, had always been the definition of safe. It was the kind of place where people left their front doors unlocked, where students walked home alone at 3 a.m. without a second thought, and where the biggest local news of the month was usually the high school football team winning a game. That sense of peaceful reality shattered forever on November 13th, 2022. What if a killer knew more about criminal investigations than the detectives themselves? What if he spent years analyzing police tactics, forensics, and evidence collection specifically to become a ghost? Today, we're breaking down a case that terrified a nation, not just because of its sudden, overwhelming violence, but because modern science had to fight against a man who believed he was an untouchable criminal mastermind. This is the deep dive into the University of Idaho murders. To understand this story, you have to understand the house at 1122 King Road. It wasn't just a rental property for university students, it was a vibrant, welcoming hub. The multi-level home had 3 floors, multiple entrances, and a constant flow of young people coming and going. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan were more than just roommates. They had been inseparable best friends since the 6th grade. Kaylee was outgoing, ambitious, and on the verge of starting a new chapter in Texas, where she had landed a high-paying IT job. She had actually already moved out, but came back to Moscow for one final weekend to show Madison her new car and celebrate their college years. Madison worked as a waitress at a popular local restaurant called the Mad Greek. Friends described her as bright, kind, and deeply loyal. In almost every photo from that final night, Kaylee and Madison are side by side. On the 2nd floor lived Zana Kernodle and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin. Zana was a marketing student, energetic, funny, and fiercely independent. Ethan was a triplet, a visitor from the nearby fraternity house who spent almost every night with Zana. They were the kind of young couple everyone loved being around. That night, there were 6 people inside the house. 2 other roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke, slept on the 1st floor. Both would survive the night, but Dylan's traumatic experience would become one of the most critical and debated pieces of evidence in the entire case. Around 4 a.m., Dylan was awakened by noises from upstairs. At first, she assumed Kaylee was playing with her dog, Murphy, but moments later, the sounds changed. She heard faint crying coming from Zana's room on the 2nd floor, followed by a low, calm male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm gonna help you." Unsettled, Dylan opened her bedroom door slightly for a 3rd time. Stepping out into the dim hallway, she saw a tall figure dressed entirely in black, wearing a tactical mask that covered his nose and mouth. The only features she could clearly see were his dark, bushy eyebrows. The masked figure walked directly past her, moving toward the sliding glass doors leading to the backyard, and vanished into the night. In the weeks that followed, Dylan faced a brutal wave of online criticism. Internet commentators demanded to know why she didn't call 911 until noon the next day. But psychologists and forensic experts quickly pointed out the complex human response to extreme trauma: psychological denial. The young brain aggressively rejects horror. In a safe student house, you convince yourself it's a prank or a drunk friend rather than a mass murder. Tonic immobility, freeze response. When confronted with perceived death, the body can lock down completely. Dylan locked her door and fell into a state of catatonic shock for hours. Exhaustion and impairment, late hours, and alcohol severely impair cognitive processing, making reality feel like a fever dream. Let's reconstruct the precise timeline constructed by the FBI and local police using cell tower data, camera footage, and digital footprints. 1:45 a.m., Kaylee and Madison are seen on a live Twitch stream at a late-night food truck ordering pasta and chatting with people. 1:56 a.m. Outsmart, a private driver drops Kaylee and Madison home. Zana and Ethan return around the same time. 4 a.m. Zana receives a DoorDash food delivery. She is awake, eating and scrolling through TikTok on her phone in her room. 4:04 a.m. A white Hyundai Elantra is captured on neighborhood security cameras making a three-point turn in the narrow street behind the house. 4:12 a.m. The killer enters through the unlocked sliding glass door on the second floor and makes his way up to the third floor. 4:17 a.m. A nearby security camera captures muffled screams, a dog barking repeatedly, and a heavy thud. 4:20 a.m. The white Hyundai Elantra speeds away from King Road at high speed. In less than 16 minutes, 4 lives were taken with surgical, terrifying speed. Why did the killer choose a knife? The weapon was a Ka-bar combat knife, a heavy-duty blade originally manufactured for the United States Marine Corps. It features a 7-inch fixed blade designed for military lethal force. A gun would have rung out like a cannon in the quiet valley, alerting the whole town. A knife allowed for silent, deadly execution. The killer walked up to the third floor first. Madison and Kaylee were sleeping in the same bed. The attack was swift, but in the dark, chaos ensued. And right there, on the mattress next to Madison's body, the killer made his first catastrophic mistake. He left behind the knife's brown leather sheath. On its metal snap button, crime scene investigators found what would change the entire course of the case: a single microscopic trace of male touch DNA. Downstairs, the killer encountered Zana. Unlike the others who were caught off guard in their sleep, Zana was awake. She fought back with everything she had, suffering deep defensive wounds on her hands and arms before succumbing. Ethan was killed inside her room shortly after. While state police and the FBI worked behind closed doors, the internet stepped in, with disastrous results. Self-proclaimed TikTok detectives and armchair sleuths began accusing innocent people. A hoodie-wearing student who walked near the girls at the food truck was forced to flee the country due to death threats. A local history professor was falsely accused by a TikTok psychic of planning the murders, leading to lawsuits. Even a neighbor who gave a polite interview to news reporters was branded a suspect because internet users deemed his calm posture suspicious. This public hysteria almost derailed the official investigation, creating thousands of false tips that detectives had to manually clear. Behind the scenes, the FBI deployed a revolutionary technique, investigative genetic genealogy, IgG. This was the same method used in 2018 to capture Joseph James D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer. The upload: investigators took the touch DNA profile from the knife sheath button and uploaded it to public genealogy databases like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. Building the tree. The system didn't find the killer directly, but it found his distant second and third cousins. Forensic genealogy. FBI genealogists built a massive family tree, tracing back to common ancestors from the 1800s and then tracking forward to living descendants. Target isolation. They narrowed down the tree to one specific branch, zeroing in on a male suspect living in the area with a white Hyundai Elantra. To lock in the evidence without alerting him, detectives secretly monitored the suspect's family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, over the Christmas holidays. In the middle of the night, agents quietly recovered household trash from the curb. DNA extracted from that trash matched the biological father of the profile on the knife sheath with a 99.9998% statistical certainty. The target was confirmed: Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Who was the man behind the mask? Bryan Kohberger was a 28-year-old PhD student studying criminal justice and criminology at Washington State University, located just 10 miles across the state border in Pullman, Washington. He was a student of human pathology. One of his professors was Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a world-renowned expert on serial killers. Months before the murders, Kohberger posted a detailed survey on Reddit asking convicted criminals to answer questions about their mindset. Did you plan the crime before leaving your home? How did you approach your victim? What did you feel right after committing the act? To his professors, it looked like academic research. In reality, investigators believe it was a dry run, a man collecting operational intelligence for his own real-world experiment. Former acquaintances described Kohberger as an outcast who struggled with social cues, obsessive-compulsive traits, and severe weight loss in his youth. Online posts from his teenage years revealed long-standing struggles with mental health, depersonalization, and an inability to feel empathy. He viewed himself as intellectually superior to everyone around him, yet he felt entirely invisible in the real world. He didn't pick the house at 1122 King Road out of a personal grievance. He picked it because it was a challenge: multiple occupants, high foot traffic, complex entry points. He stalked the house at least 12 times prior to November 13th, testing his ability to slip in and out undetected. On December 30th, 2022, a SWAT team raided Kohberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania, shattering windows and arresting him in the early hours of the morning. When formally brought before an Idaho judge, Kohberger invoked his right to stand silent. Under Idaho state law, when a defendant refuses to speak, the court automatically enters a plea of not guilty on their behalf. His high-profile public defender, Ann Taylor, immediately went to work attempting to dismantle the prosecution's narrative. She challenged the validity of the genetic genealogy process, claiming the defense was not given full access to the FBI's methodology. She offered an alibi, claiming Kohberger was an insomniac who spent that night doing what he frequently did, driving alone in his car to look at the stars. In response, the prosecution officially announced their intent to seek the death penalty, citing the utterly heinous, atrocious, and cruel nature of the crime. As the pretrial hearings drag on, Bryan Kohberger remains in a solitary cell in Latah County Jail, awaiting his day of judgment. Bryan Kohberger spent his entire adult life studying how criminals get caught, trying to design the uncatchable crime. Yet a single microscopic cell left on a metal snap button dismantled his entire illusion. It shows us that in our modern era, where our phones, digital footprints, and genetic codes leave invisible shadows everywhere we go, the concept of a perfect crime is becoming a relic of the past. What do you think about the use of genetic genealogy in hunting down suspects? Do you think the defense can counter the physical DNA evidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown compelling, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into real-world mysteries. Thank you for watching and stay safe out there.